Happy Friday, February 16th. It is the start of the President's Day weekend. I'm your host, Kimberly Perot, and welcome to Wasatch Weekends. On today's show, earlier in the week, I got into the kitchen with Kevin and we made a flourless chocolate cake. Can't wait for you to see that recipe and see how easy it is. Plus, Katie Wang with the Weekend Park City Film Update. We chat all things about the 11-time nominated Academy Award film, Poor Things. All of that and more. Before we get started, let's take a look at the weather. Welcome back to the show. We are getting started and leading up to the Academy Awards, which means Park City Film has got their eye on all of the good films that are happening. So I've got Katie Wang here to talk about the weekend happenings. Katie, how are you this morning?
I'm well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on board. So you mentioned the Academy Awards are coming up, which means there are so many incredible films that are nominated, and Park City Film is really doing their best to highlight and to showcase some of these films. So what can we expect for the weekend?
Well, one of my favorite films of the year, Poor Things, this weekend, and I'm so excited. It's the second most nominated film this year at the Oscars. It's 11 nominations: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress for Emma Stone, on and on. And it's always thrilling when you see some of these films in the film festival environment and fall in love with them, to see that the professionals, as it were, in the Academy agree with you and then put them up for so many nominations, because it is a fantastic film. So, Poor Things is kind of a revisionist tale of Frankenstein. So if you're familiar with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, but it kind of turns it on its head. So you have William Dafoe playing the monstrous, in this case, Dr. Frankenstein, and the monster is played by Emma Stone, who of course is not monstrous at all, but perfectly lovely, beautiful. So it's irreverent, whimsical, just fantastical, everything from the set design to the costumes. So it kind of just puts you off your balance a little bit in terms of what you're going to expect. You never quite know where it's going to go, but you're always delighted that you're on the journey and can't wait to see where it takes you. So it's essentially at its core about what does it mean to be human, which of course is the theme of Frankenstein, but in this case, what does it mean specifically to be a human female? So if you've kind of been following all the stories about Barbie, I would say this is kind of the more adult version, more intellectual version of the Barbie story, of just kind of being a female human in the world and kind of actualizing that in all of its beauty and kind of conflict and just complexity. So it's, as you can see, one of my favorite films of the year, and we're really thrilled to be having it here this weekend at Park City Film.
Oh, that's great. And 11 nominations, which is incredible. And Emma Stone is so versatile and definitely one of my favorite actors as well. So where can we see the film? Tell us about when the dates that they're showing.
Sure. So it's Friday and Saturday at 7, and then again Sunday at 6. You can get tickets online at parkcityfilm.org, or we open our box office an hour before showtime. So if you have a change of plans or just spontaneously decide that you want to come to the movies and buy your tickets in person, we're happy to help you there. We've got plenty of seats available, 450-seat theater. And of course, if you bring your own bowl, you get $1 off your popcorn. Our world famous Park City Film popcorn with real butter is something that all the locals talk about. So if you haven't experienced that yet and you're here for the holiday weekend, here's your chance to not only see a fantastic film, but eat some of the best popcorn in town.
So you can bring your own bowl and it's $1 off.
Absolutely. So, and it's all a fundraiser for Park City Film, which is fun.
I love
that.
It's
fun to see what people bring, like the types of bowls that people bring. We have our, famous Julie Hopkins, Keller Williams Real Estate Bowl, which is the bright red bowl that people have been collecting over time at our pre-film raffle. And it's kind of a little marker of how many films have you been to? Are you a real local here in Park City? But then people bring, wood-turned bowls, hand-painted bowls. Sometimes it's just Tupperware. That's fine. We don't judge. But it's really fun to see what folks bring in. And I do want to give a shout out before I leave you here to Mountain Town Music. They are the underwriter for the film this weekend. It's great to see art supporting art. Brian Richards, who's their executive director, was on the original board for Park City Film, so back in the day, in the mid '90s. So it's fun to see it come full circle and have them support us in our films and help us have us support them in getting their mission and message out about the great work that they do in our community.
Awesome. So Poor Things, 2 evening showings and a matinee, and it is nominated for 11 awards. So very exciting stuff there.
Yes. So not a matinee, still evening. So
Sorry,
7, 7, and 6.
early evening.
Yeah, so I think a matinee is like 2 o'clock. That's like for the young kids.
Absolutely.
The folks that are,
So 3 showing times.
You could definitely go skiing. So I don't want to, people, we time it so that people can go skiing, enjoy that great snow, have a day out, and then settle in the evening hours to come see a fantastic film, one of the best films of the year, arguably.
Well, it definitely sounds like it should be seen this weekend. So Katie, we appreciate you and all that you're doing with Park City Film. Thanks for coming on and for giving us the weekend updates.
Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Absolutely. You too. Now stay tuned. We've got a bit more on the show. We'll be right back after this. In case you missed Valentine's Day and you were still in the doghouse or you're just doing a delayed celebration, Kevin and I were in the kitchen earlier this week and made a flourless chocolate cake that is quite decadent and tastes like chocolate pudding. Let's take a look. It's Valentine's Day, and you know what Valentine's Day means?
Chocolate cake.
Chocolate cake.
Yeah.
Exactly right. You can always have chocolate on Valentine's Day, especially the good kind.
Where's the flour?
You know what? We don't have any flour.
We don't.
We don't, because this is a gluten-free, if you want to be official, or also known as a very decadent flourless chocolate cake.
Okay.
Very easy. So first of all, I love the double boiler for one reason. I'm freezing right now. So just warm my hands over the heat from this. But we've got lots happening here in the kitchen. And we are melting chocolate. We're adding cacao powder to it. We're adding sugar, eggs, and butter. So this is a 6-ingredient recipe unless you want to add kosher salt, and then it makes it a 7-ingredient recipe. Very easy.
Okay.
You don't have to be super fancy. You can impress your guest or your hot date for the evening.
What makes a difference whether you want to add salt or not? Is it just personal preference?
It's personal preference.
Okay.
I love the combination of a salty sweet, so especially when it comes to chocolate. So this is a fun one. We can add it in if we want to, or we don't have to. But what about you? What's your preference?
I don't know. I'm kind of with you. I like maybe sprinkle on the top.
Yeah.
That way you get a little bit of the savory up there.
It's
on
true.
top.
And you know what's great about this recipe is we can really top it with anything that we want to. So if you wanted to do some flaky sea salt or kosher salt later, you can. But let's go ahead and get started.
Let's get started.
Let's get started. So we've got chocolate chips. Well, first of all, we need them to be melted. But the best way to melt chocolate chips is with some butter. And we actually have a double boiler action happening here.
Okay.
So have you worked with a double boiler before?
I have.
Okay.
Yes,
so
I have.
Tell us the secret. How do you do
Well,
it?
the secret to, or the purpose behind a double boiler is you don't want to add direct heat to something because you'll scorch it or burn it. So a double boiler adds, that secondary heat to something to get it melted or where it needs to be, kind of like you could do it with the chocolate chips, or like if you're doing a hollandaise sauce. You don't want to scorch it, you don't want to overdo it, so this gives a nice, gentle,
It puts a
decadent.
separation between the
Yeah.
direct source.
Yeah.
And so what we've got here is a small pot, and we've actually started with the rolling boil. So that doesn't have to be, overly very at the height of a boiling
Right.
temperature, but we've got light bubbles happening. So we're going to put our glass bowl directly onto the pot here.
Okay.
And that is how we start a double boiler. So this recipe calls for about a cup of chocolate chips and 6 tablespoons of butter.
there's about a cup.
We've got about a cup of chocolate chips.
chips.
And now we need to add about 6 tablespoons of butter as well.
Okay.
And that's how it's all going to melt together. So we're just pouring this
Perfect.
in here, just adding it in. Now we've got 2 mini sticks of butter.
And this says 4, so it's 4
4 per mini stick.
Per
so
mini
we're going to
stick.
cut 1 in half, which is good because we need to save the other 2 tablespoons.
So put it right in there with it.
Just dump
Okay.
it right in here. We're just
I'll get
letting
2 more.
We're letting it slowly melt. So we're just going to sit here, hang out, have a conversation as it continues to melt in our
And while Kevin cuts 2 more.
well, Kevin cuts
tablespoons.
2 more of these, but it's really great. And so to prep this recipe, so the total ingredients are cacao powder, sugar, butter. We've got vanilla extract, eggs, 4 eggs. We need about 4 eggs there.
Okay, I've got
right.
4.
We've got
Okay.
4. We've got
6 actually.
2
Look
in
at
case
that.
we break one and can't use it.
So eggs in this bowl?
Eggs in this bowl, yep.
Okay.
So we're putting all the other ingredients in this bowl as our chocolate and our butter continues to melt. And then with that extra 2 tablespoons of butter, we actually have these cute little ramekins. They hold up to 2 or 4 ounces, and each ramekin we're going to cover about 4 ounces worth of the batter, so that it just is a nice, decadent, individual. I think serving things in individual servings always makes it a little bit more fun,
Oh, yeah.
especially
It's fancy.
especially if it's for your date or you're hosting a dinner party. And this is just also a great recipe to use for that as well. So our chocolate's looking great. It's melting. We're just going to keep stirring it, and you just kind of keep stirring and stirring until everything melts. And then once it's melted, we'll remove it from the heat. We'll get these things rocking and rolling. We'll stir it up, and it's that simple.
So should I just beat these eggs in?
So go ahead and beat those eggs. I'm going to pass you that back because
Okay.
we're going to need that as well. So we've got those eggs beating. And this recipe can be made vegan if you wanted to. Instead of using butter, you could use anything that calls for a butter substitute as well.
Got it.
And so
Ooh, look at those things.
it's gluten-free, it's flourless, it's delicious. Back in the day, I think flourless chocolate cake used to be a very decadent recipe. Now it's a gluten-free substitute, but as we are more aware of our health these days. But looking good, Kevin. So then we've got regular sugar. We need about 3/4 of a cup of regular sugar there.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and get started with that. That's a brand new bag of sugar.
Oh.
So it really doesn't matter. You can use regular sugar, you can use coconut sugar, whatever you feel, whatever your preference is, really.
Ooh, coconut sugar would be good.
Yeah, it would be delicious. I like coconut sugar. I use it a lot, actually, when I'm at home. So this chocolate is looking great. I'm going to lower some of this heat a little bit and just make sure that we are stirring it up. It looks good. The butter is the one that doesn't want to melt as much here, but you can also pop this in the microwave if you wanted to. So you can just microwave it off and on in 30-second increments.
Or set it out just a little bit longer than what we did so
Sure.
it softens up.
Absolutely. Yep, and looking good though, because the butter and the chocolate together gives it a nice liquid, melty consistency.
All right, so sugar goes in.
Sugar goes in here. So the only ingredients that we have in this bowl is the butter and the chocolate, and then we're adding in 3/4 of a cup of sugar into this mixture here,
Okay.
our flourless mixture.
Yes.
And then on top of that, we're adding cacao and vanilla as well. So vanilla extract. About 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I always like to add a little extra, so if you're not exact.
Just like it a little vanilla-y?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little bit, despite what you think, you cannot tell that there's more vanilla in a chocolate recipe.
That's right.
So we're looking good. Everything's looking great. Chocolate's melting really, really well. Really happy with the way that it's looking. And this is, it just makes it not burn because, it takes a minute to melt all the chocolate.
It does.
About 2 tablespoons looks great there. And
I
then
give
we're
you a little
adding,
extra just to make
then
you
we'll-
happy.
Yep, just
Happy
a little.
Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. And then we'll do about 1/4 of a cup of cacao powder.
Okay.
And you mix all of that in. So once all of that is mixed, then we're going to dump it all into this bowl once we've got everything melted. And then we'll add everything into our ramekins and pop it in the oven for about 25 to 27 minutes. Our oven is heated at 375, so it's a good temperature. We make sure it's nice and hot. You want to make sure that when you are putting this mixture into the oven, it's already hot, so you're not kind of cooking it at a weird temperature, So almost done here, looking great, as you can see.
The cacao in here.
Cacao in there, yeah,
Okay.
just like that. I can smell the chocolate. Can you smell it?
I know. It just smells amazing. Look at that.
It really does. And you know what's great about cacao powder is that it actually is not sweet at all. So it's just the exact.
I wonder why.
I wonder why, because there's no added sugar into it, and cacao is not naturally sweet. It's just a delicious, we're making a mess in here, Kevin.
I know, look at that.
You know, it's not as bad as when I made the powdered sugar ingredient into the chocolate football
that was not-
for the big game. That was pretty
Did it
funny.
just poof up on you?
It did. You know, we should probably be wearing aprons, but you know, I'd say we're experts at this point. Okay, our butter is looking really, really good. We're just making sure everything is nice and smooth.
Wow, that looks great.
It does. Now you could use an electric mixer if you wanted to in this to really make sure everything
But why?
works. But what's the point?
What's the point?
What's the point? All right, so this one you want to make sure that everything is nice and smooth. It looks really smooth now. We're going to turn off the oven, or the stove, rather. Butter is melted, chocolate is melted, and we're going to remove it from the heat. So I'm just going to take this hot water out of the way
Okay.
and put it into our sink here.
Hot water burn baby. What movie is that from?
I don't know.
Rain Man.
There we go.
See?
Looks good. So as you're mixing
Little
that
movie
in, Kevin,
trivia too while we make our
little movie
Yeah.
trivia.
followers.
We're going to go ahead and dump
Chocolate cake.
this mixture into here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just like that. Looking good. And as you do that, I'm going to continue to stir it. And it will be kind of thick at first, but you just want to stir it up and make sure that everything is looking good. And while I stirred this, Kevin, I'm going to ask you to butter our ramekin.
Really? You never ask me anything. You just tell
Kevin,
me.
would you mind buttering our
Yeah,
ramekins?
that's
There
what
we
I
go.
do.
So while he's doing that, I'm just going to continue to stir this, and I'm actually going to switch it over to our whisk because I think it'll break up some of the smaller pieces. And then from here, we're going to pour these into our ramekins. You can do a little bit of a bigger ramekin, and it'll give you about 2 servings, but I think...
Do you have to adjust, do you think probably your cooking time if it's a little bigger, or do you think it'll be about the same?
I think it would be about the same. You really kind of monitor it. You know, you want to start with a basis of about 25 minutes and then stick a knife in the middle of it. And if it comes out clean, then it's done.
Okay.
Because your outside edges will be crispy, the inside will be nice and gooey, and it's just going to be delicious. So we're going to continue stirring here, and then we're going to pour them into our ramekins, pop them in the oven, and then later we'll show you how delicious these are going to be.
Smells great.
Oh my gosh, yes. You can see the consistency is kind of like a brownie batter now, which is exactly what we want. So we'll be back with more on our show right after this. We are mixed, we are buttered. We
got our batter.
We've got a batter, and we're about to pour it. This is going to be the fun part. Do you want to hold the bowl, or should I?
No, I want to watch you do the whole thing while I stand here with a rag,
Well, as you
ready
can-
to mop up the mess.
As you can see, the consistency is great. It's a little bit more liquidy because we've been stirring it. The melted butter and chocolate has just really made it a great consistency to pour into our ramekins. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And while we do that, Kevin, I'm going to give this to you, and we're just going to
Give me that.
Okay. Kevin's going to show me how it's done.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm just getting all the
All the
utensils
mess out of the way. So we're just going to pour a little bit in here, and you want to pour it into about the 4 ounces. As you can see, these ramekins have little hash marks. So
Oh, look at that.
pouring it in looks great.
But the aroma in this kitchen right now is
It
mesmerizing.
is mesmerizing. You know, I love a good fudgy chocolate cake, and that's
do?
exactly what these are, especially when they are flourless. And we've pulled them out of the oven. They've got a nice, as you can see, crispy outside.
Perfect.
Just like we wanted.
Yeah.
The inside is ooey gooey. Are we digging in?
Go ahead.
We are digging in. I'm going to go ahead and
I'll
give
narrate as you eat.
Well, you can just
As the
hear
spoon enters the center
Oh my goodness.
of the flourless.
flourless,
chocolate
ooey
mini cake.
gooey mini chocolate cake. Ooh, fresh out of the oven, so that was hot.
It was a little
But
hot.
As you can see, there's a
Wow,
little bit
look
of
at
steam
that.
coming off. It's fudgy in the inside. It's hot, toasty. It's almost like a fudgy chocolate pudding. Delicious. You can top it with powdered sugar, ice cream, raspberries.
Wonderful way.
Happy
Happy Valentine's Day.
thank you to Katie Wang and Mountain Music for underwriting and sponsoring the Park City film Poor Things this weekend. 3 showtimes if you need to catch any single one of them and want to get out on the slopes at the same time. Plus that chocolate cake recipe. I hope you get to make it this weekend. I'm your host, Kimberly Perot, and thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.